Hi and welcome to bexbugoutsurvivor, and today we're looking at inflatable camp mats. I have 4 and each are from some of the very best leaders in the industry, including therm-a-rest, Climate, X-Pad and Multi-Mat. I also watched YouTube videos on these mats and every YouTuber claimed theirs was better than the other products. So now I have all 4. From therm-a-rest, Climate, X-Pad, Multi-Mat. We'll be looking at the pack size, its insulating values, comfort on undulating terrain. I'm going to tell you my findings and see if it helps you. So in no particular order, we'll be looking at its R value, its pack size, the weight, the size of the actual pad, the materials it uses, and what I think of it, and its price factor. Love this little pad, 75D poly on both sides, tough as old boots, harder to puncture than any of the others I'm about to show you. I wouldn't say it's puncture resistant, none of these will be, but this is the toughest of them all. The insulation itself is drilled foam core. 835 grams of pad here. Came with 2 of these, I can only find 1 of them now. So it equates to 29 ounces. We'll have a showdown at the end of the warmest, the lightest, the most expensive, side by side. But first, let's go through them one at a time in no particular order. This is the kind of valve, the twist and pull. The marketing will say it's self-inflating, no mat is self-inflating. It's a good marketing ploy, but it always needs a few extra breaths. I found about maybe between 6 and 8 breaths. Shoulder width is a bit tight. Pretty comfy, this one, so good for side sleeping. Now with a lot of these pads I would add in a reflector. Hasn't got as much thermal value as some of the others. Doesn't bottom out for side sleepers, so plenty of cushion on the hip. And I'll give you my opinions on each of these, tell you what I think is value for money. This is the Multi-Mat, NATO approved in the British Army. Its big brother is rectangle shaped, but it's a bit thinner at 25mm. The next one is by X-Pad. This one is the down mat, which is the LW9, 7.8 rating. Its weight is 44 ounces, that's 1280 grams. We'll show you smaller and lighter. This one requires a pump sack. This here, added into it in yellow, is the actual inflation bag. It's one of the roomiest ones, this. I like this one. I haven't taken any of them very low in temperature because it is the UK, you know. So this one, again, is never bottomed out on the hip. Very, very comfortable. The fill itself we'll talk about later because this is the goose feathered one. And this one is the X-Pad LW9. LW, long, wide, 9 centimetres, that's 9 centimetres of goose feathers. This is a nice pad if you like your shoulder space and you're foot space, or if you're a bigger guy, or like me, you just like a bit of comfort and luxury. Sometimes I'll use the pump sack as the actual stuff sack for this if I'm not too bothered about compressing the volume. The Neo Air X Therm regular, 6.9 for its R rating. £1 1 ounce, which is just 490 grams. One of the smallest, one of the lightest in the collection. This came with a pump sack. Likewise did the X-Pad, came with the pump sack, but you can buy them individually. A similar kind of valve here to the multi-map, however this one isn't self-inflating. I've seen these ones retail for nearly 200 quid. In the bottom of the pump sack is this see-through window here, which is silicone, and I'm going to fit it over this part here, the valve, and make sure it sits right underneath, undo the valve, and just like the X-Pad, you start inflating. Plenty of hip support for one of the smallest and lightest pads. There's pros and cons to all systems, and I'll go through them at the end, but in the whole, this is really nice if I can just overcome the narrowness of some of the pads. This one's by Climate. And as you can see, this is a hammock pad. So I'll be putting the stats in for the ground pad version and not this one. But I can tell you what I think of this. Has an R value of 6.9, 20 inches by 72 inches and 2.5 inches thick, 50 centimetres wide, 183 long and 6.4 centimetres in depth. The material on top is a 30D nylon and on the bottom a 70D nylon. The R rating on this is 7.8, 25 inches by 77 inches and 3.5 thick, 55 centimetres wide, 197 long and 9 thick. It's a rating of 5.3, 20 inches length, 72, 51 centimetres wide by 183 long, and of course 38. All of these go into stuff sack pretty easy. Huge stuff sack. And as you can see, far bigger than the actual mat. This one I keep like this, I just put the band around it, or can be flat packed down the spine of the pack. The X-Pad is folded in its length by its thirds and rolled. I incorporate the pump sack into the roll, as with the therm-a-rest also. It's one of the tightest stuff sacks. Now this one is the most interesting stuff sack. It has a stuff sack bigger than it needs to be, so it can incorporate being rolled a little differently from head to foot, rolled and folded. fold it over half. However, it does fill up the entire stuff sack. Now, I can live with that, that's okay. The X-Pad folded into thirds in its length, rolled, tight stuff sack. The multi-mat. There are multiple ways to roll the multi-mat. I've had it in this configuration. I enjoy just folding it. When it comes to the climate, especially this hammock version, if you're thinking of getting this, it takes a long time to get the air out of these little wings. If you're thinking you're going to do it in a hurry, you're not. This is the Neo Air X Therm Max Regular, so it's a bit bigger than some of its counterparts, but it's 9" by 4". Seems pretty accurate. A 9" by 4" equates to 23 by 10 centimetres. The climate here, pack size is 5 by 10 inches, which is 12.7 centimetres by 25.4 centimetres. The Expedition mat here, 10.6 inches by 5.9 inches, which is 27 centimetres by 15, and that one there is 10.4 by 5.9 inches, 26.5 centimetres by 15.3. Now this one's hard to believe, 44 ounces or 1250 grams. I'm going to put that on the scales. I'm sure that's wrong. So the website said this X-Pad was 1280 grams, so as I concluded, it is a lot lighter than is on the website, and this is including the stuff sack and pump sack. Now either the information on the website is incorrect or my scales are, and I am inclined to believe it's the website. The X-Pad has the better R value, then the therm-a-rest, then the climate, and coming in last is this here. Having experienced these now, I wouldn't put them in this order. This here, as far as R value goes, that's out, that's gone. I would then swap a bit here and put that in the middle, which is the X-Pad. That felt warmer. However, this one and this one are brilliant, and you're a quilt sleeper. Multi-mat was the cheapest. Then followed by that's quite cheap now. And yes, you probably expected it. So that is the order from left to the cheapest and priciest to the right. So which do I like, which do I not like? Are there any winners in my book? This here. This is the bulkiest, but still I would have this in my pack. I would have this for wild camping because it's tough. I think, if I remember, it's 75 denier on each side there. It is pretty tough, easy to repair these mats. The valve, easy to repair. This is, I like this, and it's cheap. This is the X-Pad. Widest on shoulders, widest for the feet. I like it because it has that feature. It is just so wide. I bought it because it is the LW, and the LW is the long wide. Once I heated it up with my body heat, it was fine. Just took a while, so I'd put a reflector with that if I were you. The climate. Now I only have this hammock version here, but I have had this on the ground, and boy, drafty, just drafty all night, both in the hammock and on the ground. It does keep the cold minimalised, but you do feel the cold. It is noticeable. I haven't had any of these sent to me. I've had to buy them with my own money, every single one of them. This was actually a present, but I can't see me using it again. It's a shame. I wanted to like it, but I don't think I can. This is the therm-a-rest. It's better than saying all the title it is, therm-a-rest. For me, if you're a quilter and not a sleeping bag kind of guy, this is amazing. You can get your bare skin straight onto fabric here of the 30D nylon, I think it was, and it reflects all your body heat straight back to you within seconds. It throws back your body heat. This is by far the warmest of all the pads, but I don't think it was the warmest when it came to the ratings. But for me, as a cold sleeper, this therm-a-rest was an outright winner. Some people complain about the noise of it because of the material that's inside it is that reflective material, and I was dreading it, but to be honest, it's not noticeable. It's probably more noticeable for others around you than it ever is going to be for yourself. This here is poor performing, didn't hold its temperature rating. For what it is, it's heavier than I need it to be. Old Faithful here is the widest on shoulders, as we discussed before, and the ones I would use with a quilt would be this. The ones I would use with a sleeping bag is this, the big boy, the multi-mat. Now, because mine is mummy shaped, mine comes inside the sleeping bag. If you want it under your sleeping bag, get yourself a rectangular one. They're the big four leaders in the industry that I've analysed with my opinions. Yours might be different. The pad I liked the least had a reflective cord, and the pad I liked the most didn't. So I've swapped the cords over, and as I was threading the high visibility cord through the therm-a-rest here, I inadvertently removed its inner strands here, and that label I'm going to remove. I don't like it. It looked second hand when I had it. This was a refurbished pad, and I wish they'd have actually just been upfront and honest and said it's a refurbished pad. I'd have still bought it instead of saying it was new. And the actual cinch toddle itself, I've swapped that as well because it was smaller on the Climate. Toddle there used to be on therm-a-rest, vice versa. So now with the therm-a-rest, which is the lightest pad, I also have stripped out cord, reflective, and a much smaller toddle. On a budget, you could try something like this Army Surplus. This here is the BCB mat, 3/4 length, self-inflating, probably the value somewhere around 30 quid. Nice brass valve on that. Marry it up here with a foam mat. This is the Army IXPE, and you're in business.